Section 5, Code of Conduct. The YMCA is committed to providing a safe and welcoming environment for all employees, volunteers, members, and program participants. To promote safety and comfort for all, the Y expects employees to act appropriately at all times while working or volunteering in Y facilities and programs. All employees are expected to behave at all times in a mature and responsible way in accordance with all applicable laws and regulations and the policies and procedures of the Y, and with adherence to the Y's 5 core values of caring, honesty, respect, responsibility, and faith. Failure to comply with the expectations as defined within this code of conduct will lead to disciplinary action up to and including termination of employment. The following list does not include all types of conduct that can result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. Harassment. The Y will not tolerate harassment of its employees, whether committed by a fellow employee, a member of management, or a visitor to our workplace such as a vendor, supplier, or customer. All employees are responsible for ensuring that the workplace is free from harassment, especially when such conduct is based on gender, including same-sex harassment, gender stereotyping and pregnancy, race, color, religion, national origin, age, disability, genetic information, or any other unlawful basis. This policy also applies to work-related settings outside of the workplace, such as during business trips, business meetings, and business-related social events. All employees, including managers and supervisors, will be subject to corrective action up to and including termination from employment for any act of harassment that they commit. Bullying. The YMCA also prohibits acts of bullying. Bullying, like other offensive or violent behaviors, disrupts the operation of the workplace and the organization's ability to provide a safe, respectful work environment. All employees are expected to treat others with civility and respect, refuse to tolerate bullying, and report instances of bullying. Workplace bullying refers to conduct of an employer or employee in the workplace with malice that a reasonable person would find hostile, offensive, or unrelated to the employer's legitimate business interests. It may include repeated infliction of verbal abuse, such as the use of derogatory remarks, insults, and epithets, verbal or physical conduct that a reasonable person would find threatening, intimidating, or humiliating, or the gratuitous sabotage or undermining of a person's work performance. Workplace bullying often involves an abuse or misuse of power. Bullying includes behavior that degrades or offends an employee, often in front of others. Bullying behavior creates feelings of defenselessness in the target and undermines an individual's right to dignity at work. Bullying can be by gesture or by written, verbal, graphic, or physical act, including information electronically transmitted through email, internet, or telephone, including cell phone calls or text. Bullying is different from aggression. Whereas aggression may involve a single act, bullying involves repeated attacks against a target, creating an ongoing pattern of behavior. Bullying is also different from harassment. Harassment is a form of unlawful discrimination, while workplace bullying is not unlawful in Texas, unless it is based on protected characteristics such as race or gender. Tough or demanding bosses are not necessarily bullies, as long as they remain respectful and fair, and their motivation is to obtain the best performance by setting high expectations. Anti-retaliation. The Y forbids retaliation against anyone for the following: reporting harassment or any situation contrary to standard acceptable practices, reporting or refusing to participate in activities that are against the law, assisting in making a complaint, or cooperating in investigations of reported actions or practices. Employees who feel that they have been discriminated against, retaliated against, or harassed in any other manner for any of the issues identified above should immediately report such incidents to either the employee supervisor, the president, CEO, or human resources department. All complaints will be investigated promptly, impartially, and discreetly. Confidentiality will be maintained to the greatest extent permitted by the circumstances. A principal endeavor of the Y is to provide a healthy atmosphere for the growth and development of children. The YMCA is the largest provider of childcare in the United States. In addition to that, every Saturday morning, 1,500 children participate in youth sports. The law requires an individual to report any suspicion of child abuse to the police and to Child Protective Services. Each person must report to his or her supervisor about anyone, especially individuals working with children whose actions do not follow the Y's code of conduct, as well as any comments by children that should be investigated. Employees are never to be alone with a child unless under an emergency situation that creates an unavoidable condition. Number 1. In order to protect YMCA staff, volunteers, and program participants, YMCA staff may not be alone with a single child where they cannot be observed by others. As staff supervise children, they should space themselves in a way that other staff can see them. Number 2. Staff shall never leave a child unsupervised. Number 3. Restroom supervision. Staff will make sure the restroom is not occupied by suspicious or unknown individuals before allowing children to use the facilities. Staff will stand in the doorway while children are using the restroom. This policy allows privacy for the children and protection for the staff, not being alone with a child. If staff are assisting younger children, doors to the facility must remain open. No child, regardless of age, should ever enter a bathroom alone on a field trip. Always send children in pairs and whenever possible with staff. Number 4. Staff should conduct or supervise private activities in pairs, diapering, putting on bathing suits, taking showers, etc. When this is not feasible, staff should be positioned so that they are visible to others. Number 5. Staff shall not abuse children, including physical abuse, striking, spanking, shaking, slapping, verbal abuse, humiliate, degrade, threaten, sexual abuse, inappropriate touch or verbal exchange, mental abuse, shaming, withholding love, cruelty, neglect, withholding food, water, basic care, etc. Any type of abuse will not be tolerated and may be cause for immediate dismissal. Number 6. Staff must use positive techniques of guidance, including redirection, positive reinforcement, and encouragement rather than competition, comparison, and criticism. Staff will have age-appropriate expectations and set up guidelines and environments that minimize the need for discipline. Physical restraint is used only in predetermined situations necessary to protect the child or other children from harm. It is only administered in a prescribed manner and must be documented in writing. Number 7. Staff will conduct a health check of each child each day as they enter the program, noting any fever, bumps, bruises, burns, etc. Questions or comments will be addressed to the parent or child in a non-threatening way. Any questionable marks or responses will be documented. Number 8. Staff will respond to children with respect and consideration and treat all children equally regardless of sex, race, religion, or culture. Number 9. Staff will respect children's right to not be touched in ways that make them feel uncomfortable and their right to say no. Other than diapering, children are not to be touched in areas of their bodies that would be covered by a bathing suit. Number 10. Staff will refrain from intimate displays of affection in the workplace, especially in the presence of children, parents, and staff. Number 11. While the YMCA does not desire to judge an individual's lifestyle conducted outside the workplace, it does require that in the performance of their job they will abide by the standards of conduct set forth by the YMCA. Number 12. Staff must appear clean, neat, and appropriately attired. Number 13. Using, possessing, or being under the influence of alcohol or illegal drugs during working hours is prohibited. Number 14. Smoking or using tobacco in any form in the presence of children or parents during working hours is prohibited. Number 15. Profanity, inappropriate jokes, sharing intimate details of one's personal life, and any kind of harassment in the presence of children or parents is prohibited. Number 16. Staff must be free of physical or psychological conditions that might adversely affect children's physical or mental health. If in doubt, an expert should be consulted. Number 17. Staff will portray a positive role model for youth by maintaining an attitude of respect, loyalty, patience, courtesy, tact, and maturity. Number 18. Staff may not be alone with children they meet in YMCA programs outside of the YMCA. This includes babysitting, sleepovers, and inviting children to your home. Any exceptions require a written explanation before the fact and are subject to administrator approval. Number 19. Staff are not to transport children in their own vehicles. Number 20. Staff may not date program participants under the age of 18 years of age. Number 21. Under no circumstance should staff release children to anyone other than the authorized parent, guardian, or other adult authorized by the parent or guardian. Written parent authorization on file with the YMCA. Number 22. Staff are required to read and sign all policies related to identifying, documenting, and reporting child abuse and attending trainings on the subject as instructed by a supervisor. Any violation of this code of conduct may result in termination of employment. Off-duty relationships with children. Employees may not be alone with children, defined for the purpose of this policy as anyone below the age of 18, whom they meet in Y programs outside of the Y. Employees may not initiate contact with children who participate in Y programs for activities, including but not limited to employment, babysitting, sleepovers, and inviting children to their home unless one of the following conditions exists. The employee and the child's family or guardians have a relationship that predates the employee's employment or volunteer position at the YMCA. The employee and the children's family or guardians have a relationship that predates the child's enrollment in the YMCA program, or the employee and the child's family, or child's guardian are related. In all of the above cases, the branch executive director must be notified. Any exceptions to the above must be approved by the president, CEO. Grooming and dress. The Y welcomes people of all ages from diverse cultures and backgrounds. Y employees are expected to model good personal hygiene at all times in their roles as public representatives of the Y's mission and values. Employees are expected to follow standards and appropriate dress as clarified by the executive director at each facility. To ensure that all employees portray a consistent positive image of the Y to the community, the Y requires that the staff wear professional attire appropriate to their position according to the following dress code guidelines. Personal appearance and dress must be neat and clean at all times, exhibiting hygienic grooming habits. Any clothing or accessories that pose a safety hazard are prohibited. For example, no open-toed shoes may be worn by individuals employed in a position in which such shoes would pose a safety hazard in the performance of their job. No clothing that advocates or advertises alcohol, drugs, sex, tobacco, profane language, etc. may be worn. Certain Y positions require clothing such as polo shirts, t-shirts, or bathing suits displaying the Y logo to be worn at all times while on duty. Certain positions require a Y staff badge to be worn at all times while on duty. Interpretation of any of the above guidelines is subject to the sole discretion of the YMCA management. Some branch-specific or program-specific guidelines may apply. Consult your supervisor if any questions arise. Note, upon request, exceptions may be made for religious and/or medical reasons. Employees should be sensitive and refrain from wearing Y staff shirts, name badges, or other items displaying the Y logo if off-duty activities or circumstances could compromise the YMCA of Austin's image. Violence prevention / weapons-free workplace. Workplace violence is strictly prohibited. Workplace violence includes threats, threatening or aggressive behavior such as intimidation or attempts to instill fear in others, even if made in jest, belligerent speech, excessive arguing, swearing, and sabotage or threats of sabotage of YMCA property, defacing YMCA property or causing physical damage to facilities, and the unauthorized possession or transportation, whether intentional or not, of a firearm, explosive weapon, gun, chemical dispensing device, club or other weapon, or any hazardous device or substance on YMCA premises or by employees while on YMCA business. Any use of such items or threat of use of such items is ground for immediate termination. In accordance with Texas law, the prohibition on possession and transportation of firearms and ammunition does not apply to employees in lawful possession of firearms or ammunition, such as individuals licensed by the state of Texas to carry a weapon, provided the firearm or ammunition is transported or stored in the individual's privately owned locked vehicle parked on the YMCA's premises. Employees who do store a firearm or ammunition in their vehicles on YMCA premises must advise Human Resources in writing prior to doing so. Employees may not transport or store firearms or ammunition in YMCA vehicles or in personal vehicles used for business purposes. Any employee observing or becoming aware of violent or potentially violent behavior must notify his or her supervisor or Human Resources immediately. All threats and attempts to harm will be taken seriously. Employees who may be victims of domestic violence or stalking are encouraged to report to their supervisors if they are concerned about their security at work. Conflicts of interest. It is the policy of the Y that employees may not engage in activities contrary to the interests of the Y or inconsistent with the responsibilities entrusted to employees. In general, a conflict of interest exists whenever an employee achieves personal gain or incurs obligation to others at the expense of the Y. Such personal gain need not be direct and might include gain by family members, friends, or relatives. The following list includes areas in which a conflict of interest is likely to arise, but is not meant to limit the areas in which employees should exercise discretion. Obtaining personal benefit from any corporate transaction, sale, purchase, rent, or lease of property, employee services, or supplying products. Receiving gifts, special payments, or favors greater than a nominal value, generally $25 or less, from an individual or organization that is providing goods or services to the Y, or receiving goods or services from the Y. At no time should an employee solicit, request, or otherwise indicate that gifts, payments, or favors are expected. Misusing inside information or confidential information that is not available to the public, including membership, contributor, or employee mailing list for personal gain or others' gain, to the Y's disadvantage or to the employees or others' improper advantage. Using the Y's tax exemption for purchase of personal material or equipment. Using Y's resources to develop competitive programs for personal use or use by others. Additional guidance. YMCA staff attire must be worn at all times while representing the YMCA, while on-site or at a function. YMCA attire may include a Y staff shirt, Y name badge, or business attire such as a collared shirt, slacks, or dress. Dress should be appropriate and based on one's position at the branch. When representing the Y in a professional setting with members, the community, or any stakeholder business, casual attire is expected. Professional settings include but are not limited to the following: branch board meetings, impact team meetings, any meetings with an outside stakeholder. Staff attire, including footwear, may reflect the work being performed. For example, if you are in and out of the pool all day, then a bathing suit and a Y staff shirt should be worn. To prevent tracking water, it is suggested that one wear appropriate footwear. Open-toe shoe exceptions include yoga instructors, staff whose position is primarily in an office setting, and aquatic staff. With regards to hats and caps, if working outside, a hat may be worn and clothes appropriate for the job being performed. Beanies, hoodies with a hood over the head, and other items that conceal a staff member's face will not be allowed inside the building. Yoga pants may be worn by only health and wellness staff. Your supervisor should provide you with several YMCA shirts upon hiring. Your name badge will also be available within the first 30 days of employment. Meanwhile, you may be provided with a standard in-training badge.